You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, writer for Sports Illustrated for various SEC-related things. But on this podcast specifically, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing Dante Allen entering the transfer portal, and then we're also going to be talking a little Kentucky football. It's been quite some time since we've talked about the Wildcats and Mark Stoops and what they've got going on. Obviously, spring practice is underway. I want to look at the depth chart for both the offense and the defense and just kind of talk about essentially just how excited I am for this upcoming season. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind you guys that we are free and available on all platforms. Let's go ahead and get into it. Dante Allen entered the transfer portal. He entered the transfer portal just a few days ago. I did not get a chance to sit down and discuss it with you guys because there was a bunch of different things, other subjects that I wanted to get to that were more relevant at the time. Obviously, with Kentucky during their March Madness run and different things like that, I wanted to just kind of talk about what was going on but we're going to talk about Allen here today. He posted to social media just a few days ago and said, quote, "Wow, this journey has been like no other. I can't thank Big Blue Nation enough for embracing me unconditionally through the highs and lows. A kid from Kentucky given an unbelievable opportunity to play for his dream school. This wouldn't feel right without thanking all of my coaches, brothers, the trainers, the staff, Big Blue Nation, and everyone who made my last 3 years so special. Lexington, Kentucky will forever be home. Lexington, Kentucky will forever be my home." And after much thought and consideration, I've decided to put my name in the transfer portal. He tweeted that out, and I believe he put it on his Instagram as well. Dante Allen, one of the guys that was one of the key contributors for last year's squad during the 2020 season. Obviously, not the most efficient offense or efficient team that Kentucky had, and Allen was, while he was a key contributor, nobody. And I don't want to rag on Allen because he was a former 4-star player. I definitely think that he's going to be able to go and succeed somewhere else. But he's one of those players that was on a squad that fans want to forget, and he's transferring out of the program after having his minutes minimized this season. And I hope that wherever he goes, he's able to find his three-point shot again. Obviously, this year was not the best three-point shooter. Wasn't the greatest three-point shooter last season either. But I would like to see him, instead of regress developmentally and instead of regressing statistically, I'd like to see him go somewhere where he can contribute and he can get his numbers up and he could potentially make a shot at playing at the next level, whether that be in the NBA, whether that be overseas or in the G League, whatever the case may be. I still believe he's got that potential in him. It's just that a lot of people, I think, are kind of discounting this as like, oh, whatever. It's a kid that played in a year that we want to forget, and then also he didn't really contribute to the team this season, which is true, which is fair. I just think that there was still potential there with Dante Allen, and again, best of luck to him and wherever he goes. Again, like I mentioned, he was a 4-star recruit in 2019. He redshirted as a freshman during the 19 season. Then he averaged 14 minutes per game in 22 games last season. And then this season, his minutes were just about cut in half, went from averaging 14 minutes to 6.5 minutes per game in just 19 games. And then over his career, he averaged 3.9 points and 1.4 rebounds per game. Obviously, I think that Kentucky still, whenever you look at their current roster, still should be excited about the guys that they currently have that could potentially take those minutes that Allen could have potentially gotten this next season. Obviously, C.J. Frederick, a guy that I'm looking at that's going to be a key contributor for this year's Kentucky squad. I think he's going to be a great shooter. Ty Washington, I believe, is going to be gone, so it's going to be interesting to see what Kentucky does outside of C.J. Frederick at the 2 spot, at the shooting guard spot, and then at small forward. Obviously, you've got to be able to find somebody to replace Kellen Grady as a shooter. It's going to be interesting to see what Kentucky does. Does Cason Wallace step up? Does Chris Livingston step up, one of the two recruits? Does Kentucky opt to go get another transfer to replace Dante Allen's minutes? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, not the biggest loss for the Wildcats, but certainly felt the need to acknowledge it and not just brush over. I think that it was important to acknowledge whenever a 4-star leaves the program. All right, in just a second, I kind of want to go over the depth chart, the spring depth chart for Kentucky football's offense, and then also the defense. And this is essentially just me kind of hyping up what's going to happen in the 2022 season, because I think it's going to be great. I think the 2022 season is going to be great for Kentucky football. Before we talk about that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends at Stat Hero. Obviously, all of us really, really love March Madness, and we love filling out brackets, but it's been a really long time since I've actually won any money, ever went deep with a March Madness bracket, and this year is a perfect example of that. I don't think I had a single Final Four pick correct, which, good on me, but I don't think a lot of people did this season. But this year, to win some money, I've actually hedged some bets with Stat Heroes NCAA Pick'em contest. Stat Heroes NCAA single game pick'ems pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. You can start focusing on the players you know best with a gameplay that does not rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. Stat Hero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times more often, because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you are going up against. In addition to their pick'em games, they also have dozens of lineups you can comb through to take on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on with a set of players that you choose. It's easy. It's the best way to get your sports action fix. The gameplay's simple. It's sleek. It'll have you playing within minutes. This is what daily fantasy was meant to be. And you can sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon using promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. Terms and conditions apply. All right, moving along here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe here with you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everybody that we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you're watching right now, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. All right, the spring depth chart for Kentucky football's offense. Going to talk about the offense first. Just going to run down the different guys that will be contributing this season. A couple of notes before we dive into it. We've got, think about this, Kentucky fans, we've got an experienced quarterback. We've got a very experienced running back. We've got promising receivers and arguably just a massive offensive line if the right players get to contribute. It's going to be a phenomenal season, I think. I think we're going to really, really enjoy some of the play that we see out of the Wildcats this year. At quarterback, obviously everybody knows incumbent Will Levis, listed at 6'3", 230, a redshirt senior, was definitely the spark I think that Kentucky needed last season to kind of elevate their offense. And if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard me say it a bunch of times. You've probably heard other people say it, so it's not necessarily something that I came up with, but I've said it for years. If Kentucky could just get a game manager at quarterback, if they could just get that who doesn't turn the ball over and doesn't necessarily light up the world with their arms, they're not throwing 50-yard bombs every game. They can just consistently manage the game. Kentucky's had guys like that, but I don't believe that they've had somebody that can genuinely consistently manage a game. Then they would be a successful offense. Now, obviously, they've had guys come and go, and we could list off several here, Stephen Johnson, different guys like that, but nobody, I think, has elevated the offense to the level that Will Levis has, and he's not a game manager. Whenever I think about Will Levis, I honestly kind of think about Matthew Stafford of the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I'm not saying that Levis is going to pan out potentially to be Matthew Stafford. He might. I'm not saying that he's going to turn into him. I'm just saying that I see similarities. I think they're both kind of gamblers. I think they both have that one receiver that they really like to look to. They're obviously Will Levis much more mobile than Matthew Stafford, but both of them are very gritty. And I know that's a term that's thrown out frequently whenever talking about different players, but I think that it truly does apply here in Will Levis's case. I see a lot of Stafford in him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does this season after throwing for over 2,800 yards and 24 touchdowns last season. Dawe Allen will back him up, the redshirt sophomore, but Will Levis will be getting the playing time, barring injury, knock on wood. Moving along here, Chris Rodriguez, the starting running back for the Wildcats. Obviously, been with the program for forever now is what it feels like, but he has 2,700 career rushing yards. I believe he needs about 1,100 to become the all-time leader at Kentucky. I think he's going to do that this season. I think he's going to do that. Listed at 5'11", 225, redshirt senior. Again, Chris Rodriguez Jr. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows what he's about. I'm really excited to see the backfield of Chris Rodriguez and Will Levis once again this season behind an offensive line that lost some pieces, but I'm excited about some of the guys. We're going to talk about that in a second. Cavassier Smoke, the backup to Chris Rodriguez, something I didn't realize, and I guess I just haven't really paid attention to it. Smoke has over 13 career rushing yards himself. So you add that up, that's just a little over 4,000 combined rushing yards for these two. Did I say receiving yards for Smoke initially? I did not mean to. So there it is. Chris Rodriguez, Cavassier Smoke is who you're looking at the 1-2 right now for the running backs. Tight ends. Keaton Upshaw is back from injury, 6'6", 245-pound redshirt senior. Suffered an injury last season. Will be back. Will be nice to see somebody with some size at the tight end position. And honestly, all three of Kentucky's tight ends have decent size. Brendan Bates, the backup, is a redshirt senior. He's probably the team's best blocker, or at least the best blocker at the tight end spot. And then Isaiah Cummings, the converted receiver, had an injury last season, and he will be back for the Wildcats this season. Excited to see what the tight ends do. And then the wide receivers. I think that there are a couple of guys in here that I'm really looking forward to seeing potentially break out. Javon Baker being one of them at the X. He is the Alabama transfer. He's got a nice blend of size and speed. He's going to arrive in the summer. So until then, Kentucky's going to likely have one redshirt freshman, one freshman working at the X position. Chris Lewis, former 4-star recruit, 6'4" guy, and then Dane Key, 6'3" guy, 195 pounds. He was also a former 4-star recruit. Kentucky's got some size in their receiver room. I really, really like the X position. The Z position, DeMarcus Harris, the veteran for the Wildcats, probably the oldest guy in this group, in this receiving core, outside of Tayvion Robinson, who we'll get to in a second. But DeMarcus Harris, redshirt junior, only has 26 career catches. Will he be able to pan out? I hope. We'll just have to wait and see. And then Barry Brown, the freshman, was a former top 100 recruit working at the Z spot, I believe, in the offense. He's versatile. He's very talented. Listed at 6 foot 175. He can do a lot of different things. He's got speed. He's got a little bit of physicality. I love what Kentucky has in Barry Brown. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does during the 2022 season. And then at slot, you've got your one guy. I think he's primarily going to be taking all of the snaps there, if not 90% of them. Tayvion Robinson, the transfer from Virginia Tech. He will be replacing Wan'Dale Robinson. And I think the expectation for this kid is that he doesn't replicate Wan'Dale Robinson's numbers, but I think that he is stylistically very, very similar to Wan'Dale. And then also I think that from a number standpoint, he's going to get close. I think he's going to get close to Wan'Dale Robinson's production from last season. I am really looking forward to seeing what Tayvion Robinson does out of the slot. Talked about Will Levis having that one go-to guy. I think Tayvion's going to be it. A lot of people would agree with that. Moving along to the offensive line, at left tackle, you've got DeAndre Buford, the presumed starter, a redshirt sophomore, but everybody knows Keonta Goodwin, the 6'8", 330-pound freshman at left tackle. Absolutely insane. Should get some playing time for the Wildcats, or should at least heavily contend for the starting left tackle spot. If Keonta Goodwin starts at left tackle, then you've got 6'8", 6'3", 6'4", 6'4", 340, and 6'6", 350 as your starting offensive line. That's massive. That's very, very solid. Moving along to left guard, Kenneth Horsey, the redshirt senior, has had 21 starts. Should play left guard, could also play tackle for the Wildcats. And then Quentin Wilson backing him up. He's a depth piece. He'll play multiple positions. He'll likely back up the center spot as well, and could potentially be the backup right guard. We'll just have to wait and see. At center, you've got Eli Cox. He's moving over from right guard to be the center. Kentucky said that they wanted some more experience snapping the ball, and so they're going to get that in Eli Cox, a redshirt junior, 6'4", 300 pounds. Quentin Wilson potentially backing him up there. At right guard, you have a transfer from Auburn, Tayshawn Manning, a super senior, 6'4", 340 pounds. Going to be interesting to see what he does. He wasn't phenomenal at Auburn, but I think that if you add him to the equation here, just on a really, really solid offensive line, I think you have to be pleased with whatever contributions he may make. I believe he will contribute. And then at right tackle, you've got Jeremy Flax, a 6'6" redshirt junior, and then to back him up, another 6'6" guy. And David, I don't even want to try and pronounce his name. He's a redshirt freshman. The fact that I even had to read it off, I've just embarrassed myself. I'm sorry. I will come back and I will figure out how to pronounce David's last name. I believe it's Wallabaugh. That may be it. But I don't want to sound like an idiot. He's got solid size, but he lacks experience as a redshirt freshman in Wallaball. And then Jeremy Flax, redshirt junior, had less than 75 snaps last season. So obviously Kentucky's got some different things that they have to work out at the tackle position. But all things considered, you could potentially be starting at left tackle, a 6'8", 300-plus pound guy, and then Jeremy Flax, a 6'6", 350-pound guy that's a redshirt junior. I mean, you've got some really, really promising guys in this room. I think I am fired up about what they could potentially do. Does this unit average close to 40 points a game this season? I want to do an episode this offseason talking about that, and we'll go over just random defensive metrics from this past season, and look ahead to the opponents that Kentucky's going to play, and just discuss, can they score an average 40 points and what it would take. I think that would be a really fun episode to do. Before we talk about the Kentucky football defense, and they've got some veteran guys on that side of the ball, I want to tell you guys about our friends at BetOnline. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, player props, betonline.net is the number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, and it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. You can head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, wrapping up the Tuesday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe here with you. The spring depth chart, we went through the offense. Let's go through the defense here real quick. At defensive end, I'm not sure who's going to start at defensive end. I would assume that Darian Henry-Young is definitely going to get a shot to do so. 6'5", 279-pound redshirt sophomore. He's an Ohio State transfer. Is he more of a depth piece? Is he a starter? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But somebody's got to step up after Josh Paschal left at defensive end. Those are some really, really big shoes to fill. Can Henry-Young do it? We'll just have to wait and see. At nose tackle, Kentucky's got a lot of experience, could potentially see a platoon system here. Justin Rogers, and Josiah Hayes, both 6'3", 300-plus pounds, both juniors, and both averaged over 200-plus snaps last season. Kentucky's got some experience at nose tackle. At defensive tackle, Octavius Oxidine, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And I'm as you can tell, I'm great with names. I'm really hitting the nail on the head today. Oxidine, 6'1", 318-pound redshirt sophomore, missed half of last season with a knee injury, I believe. He'll be back and he will be playing at defensive tackle. And then Khalil Saunders, a 6'5" redshirt freshman at defensive tackle, is going to be backing him up. I will continue to update you guys as to what's happening throughout the spring. I wanted to get through the depth chart so that we just kind of know some of the names and know some of the players that are going to potentially be standing out. Also, I'm interested to see what some of these freshmen from this past recruiting class do. Obviously, Saunders is one of those young guys that could potentially contribute. But moving along here, the edge position. Jordan Wright, the super senior, sustained an injury. It is back. J.J. Weaver will potentially be backing him up or rotating out with him at the edge. J.J. Weaver also sustained an injury last year and is back. Two guys with a lot of experience. I mean, you look at the nose tackle spot, they're very experienced there. Edge, very, very experienced. Defensive end, you've got to fill a hole there. Defensive tackle, you've got to fill a hole there as well. But, I mean, the edge spots for Kentucky, very, very promising. And then you look at the weak side linebacker, DeAndre Square, obviously the leader of the defense, the super senior there. Trevin Wallace will be backing him up. And again, it's just the Kentucky, Their front seven, they've got a couple of pieces on the interior that kind of need to step up. But overall, I'm excited about the pass rushing ability of these guys. Jacquez Jones, the Ole Miss transfer, super senior. I just wrote on my notes, baller. Led the team with 85 tackles. Really, really talented guy at the Mike linebacker spot. And then De'Eric Jackson backing him up as a redshirt sophomore returns from injury. A lot of guys that missed the season or missed half of the season last year that will be returning from injury. Again, very experienced group up and down the starting lineup here. At nickelback, though, we've got a little bit of a problem. Joel Williams will be the guy that will be starting because Kentucky lost their potential starting safety, potential starting nickelback to injury. Joel Williams, 6'1", 204-pound junior, will be the starter there. Then the question then is, well, who does Kentucky get in the transfer portal? They've got to pick somebody up. I looked to see if Kentucky's looking at anybody. The only guy that I could find was Kedron Smith, who is a 4-star Ole Miss transfer. He entered the transfer portal, I believe, back in January. Is he going to commit to the Wildcats? I don't know. It's just somebody that Kentucky's looking at. Will Smith ever commit to a school, considering it's now March? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Cornerback, Andrew Phillips, 5'11", 180-pound redshirt sophomore, should be the starter, but he's not. If he's not, Andre Stewart's going to be getting some snaps as well, a freshman. Due to Kentucky's lack of depth at the cornerback spot, they will most likely get some minutes from Andre Stewart. Again, I think Kentucky's got to pick up a couple of guys in the transfer portal before this defensive backfield is completely ready to go play. Carrington Valentine, the other starting cornerback, was very inconsistent last year. Going to need to see more consistency out of Valentine this season. And then Maxwell Hairston, former 3-star redshirt freshman, would expect him to contribute. Currently on the 2 deep right now, at least the one that I've put together. And then at safety, Tyrell Ajian, super senior. He's a veteran guy. I'm looking forward to seeing the defensive backfield. Is going to be interesting because they've got different guys that you just don't really know about. They've also got some depth issues. They're going to need to fill some spots. Ajian, one of the guys that can be an anchor in that defensive backfield, somebody to look towards for some leadership. And then Jalen Geiger had 300-plus snaps in 2021, backed up Ajian. He will be contributing to this team as well. We may need Geiger to slide over to a cornerback spot. Probably not going to happen, but Kentucky definitely needs some help in their defensive backfield, I believe. But overall, I think this is a promising unit. Just like the offense, I think that it's going to be very strong. I'm excited to see what they do pass rushing wise. I think that they've got some really good linebackers that can perform well in pass coverage, very similar to last season. I think the only issue that I have is the lack of turnovers, obviously, from last season. I think the question coming into this season is, can they create some more turnovers? We'll just have to see. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the YouTube comments below, or if you're listening on podcast format, you can hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody, and God bless.